All right, in this assignment, we're going to take a look at type layers in Photoshop, and this is Photoshop, let me see, that's not it. This is Photoshop number 11, and this is about type layers. And here's what's required on this assignment. By the way, this help page or handout will be posted on Google Classroom, and here's what you've got. I'm going to ask for one Photoshop document, so you're going to start off by making a new document, do something on the background, put something on there real quick. You're going to create 3 separate type layers. It has to be something school appropriate. It's going to say something, and it's got to be school appropriate. Each type layer is in a different font. I'm going to show you in this movie how to change fonts and how you can handle that. And then you're going to have to style them with layer styles, and that's things like drop shadows, outer glows, bevel emboss, inner glow, whatever you decide you want to do. That comes from a previous lesson, and that's a requirement on this assignment. You have to do that to get full credit. I've got some step-by-step instructions here that I'm not going to read to you because I'm going to show you. And I'm also going to be showing you in this movie how to warp text as well. You don't have to warp text if you don't want, but you can, and I'm going to show you how. Here is an example of one that's already done. 3 separate type layers. If I take my move tool, you'll notice that this, where it says awesome, and then it says bamboozled, and then I just put my classroom on here, area 1027. And you can tell that they're different fonts, and they're different colors, and they have different styles and effects on them. And this one down here, where it says area 1027, has been warped. And what I mean by that, one way to warp something is to bend it. You can tell that it's curved, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So let me just go ahead and close this document and get it out of the way and show you how this is done. Here we go. Start with a new file. Get the file size that you want. And let's do something to this document, to the background, right? I'm just going to take a gradient here and drop it in, and that's good enough for me. I'm not spending a long time on the background because I don't really need to, and you don't need to either. Just probably having something on the background is a good idea. All right, now here is your type tool right here. A capital letter T, pretty standard for any program like Photoshop. So I'm just going to come and click the type tool. Now let me show you how to do this. Watch, right? I'm going to take the type tool. I'm going to come out here and pick a spot on my canvas here. I'm going to click once. Don't drag a box. Don't click and drag. Just click one time, single click. It's going to pop on here and it'll say Lorem Ipsum to begin with. It always does that. Does it automatically. Now mine is popping up in a particular color with a particular font because of like the last thing I did. All right, but yours probably won't work that way. I'm going to just go ahead where it says Lorem Ipsum. I just clicked once. I'm going to hit backspace, and I'm just going to make this say AWESOME. It's just going to say awesome. Come up with something. Use your name. If you can't think of anything, use your first name, your middle name, your last name. Just come up with, do teams that you like. Colts, Bears, Packers, come up with something that you can use. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and hit this check mark up here at the top. And I think that when you're working on a type layer, I think that you'll get this is a new feature in Photoshop, and it's kind of cool. You'll get this little panel that appears right below it. If you don't, look for the character panel over on the right-hand side, and you get all the same kind of options here. And you could also look at the tool ribbon or the toolbar that goes across the top of the screen, because that's another place where you can control things that have to do with type, right? So here's the deal, right? I could click this where it says I had this font called Nove, N-O-V-E, and you might not have that font. But look, I can scroll through all these fonts here. And actually, I don't know how well you can see this, but as I scroll through and I just float my mouse over the different fonts, it's showing me a preview of that word in that font. So I'll just do this Bungee, for example, on this one. So I'll go with Bungee. I'll just click that, and I've set the font. There's also a little color swatch here, so I could click that and make that be whatever color I want. There's also a size thing here where I could say, well, let's make it 150. But here's the other thing you can do with size. You can always do this. You can just do Control-T on the keyboard. That's transform. We've talked about that. I can make it as big as I want and hit the check mark. And so that's another way you could change the size of it. Well, so look, I've just built a type layer. right? I clicked once with my type tool. It's going to say Lorem Ipsum. I backspaced that out. I made it say what I wanted to. I changed the font. I changed the color. Now, here's the other thing that is required on this assignment. Over at the bottom of the layers panel, I'm going to go to that FX button. You have to get full credit on this, you have to add a layer style. It can be any layer style you want. It's up to you. I'll do a gradient overlay. And that doesn't look terrible, that green and gold, but I could get in here, I could customize the gradient, or I could get in here and pick, whatever gradient I feel like I want to pick. And maybe I will also add a stroke around that, but I want the stroke to be white. And maybe I'll also add a drop shadow, and I'll play a little bit with spread and size on the drop shadow, maybe change the direction a little bit, maybe the distance a little bit. Look at my text now. Right? I want you to do that on every one of your type layers that you create today, and you have to make 3. I want you to get in there and put on some kind of layer style and fix it up. All right, now, how do you go on to the next one, right? I got to make another one. All right, well, just go make sure you have your type tool, capital letter T over here on the toolbar. Click in a new spot. Don't click on the word, I don't want to click on the word awesome here, because then Photoshop's going to think I want to change that word. I don't want to change that word. So I'm going to click in a new spot. It's going to pop up here and say Lorem Ipsum, and I'm going to backspace that out. And I'm going to go with, this is Big Bang Theory. Sheldon Cooper always says bazinga when he's trying to trick somebody. So just come up with a word, right? Whatever you want to use. And remember, once I have it typed in here, I'm going to come up here to this check mark up at the top and just click that check mark. Okay, now remember your things. These all have to be a different font. That's a requirement today. So, all right, okay, Mr. Arvin says they have to be a different font, so let's go get a different font, And my list of fonts won't match yours. I'm going to show you later how you can kind of custom build your list of fonts, but use whatever you like that you have on your list in there. And again, you can use, there's a size setting here, there's a color setting here. Maybe I want that to be like blue. And you can size it, but you can also do Control T on your keyboard, transform, check mark, right? And so there, yay! I got another type layer. It says something. It's a different font. Now you do have to come along here and do something to it. Maybe on this one I'll throw on an outer glow like that. And that's not a terrible looking outer glow. Maybe I'll just go with that. It's a white outer glow, and it's kind of left where I set it last. It's on normal blend mode with some adjustments on spread and size and all that kind of thing. So you can play with all of that, and I just click OK, and there. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you is this whole idea about warping text. You can also warp text, and you don't have to. Are you hear me there? You don't have to warp text, but you can. All right, so type tool. Notice over here on the toolbar, notice over here on the layer panel that every time you create when you use the type tool and you click in a new spot, it creates what's called a type layer. If you'll look over here, you'll see that, right here it says there's the awesome type layer and there's the bazinga type layer, and they're separate type layers, and you can see them on the layer panel. All right, so I'm going to take the type tool and I'm going to click in a new spot, and this one is going to say area 1027, which is my classroom. I'll come up here and hit the check mark. Again, I'm just going to use this little panel under here, and I am going to go scrolling along. I'm going to use this Big Fish font. Boom. I think I'll make it a yellowish color. You know what? More orange. I'm going to go orange color. And I'm going to do a Control T on the keyboard and size it some, make it a little bigger. Whoa, I did not want it that big. I'm going to hit escape there. Sorry, got a little glitchy on me. But I got it. All right, check mark on the transform. I am going to go ahead and remember and if you warp it, I'll count that as styling it, but I'm going to put a stroke on that. I don't want the stroke to be white. I want the stroke to be black. So I just added a stroke to it. Right, now here's how you warp. If you want to, remember I said if you want to. Okay, up here on the top toolbar, there is a button that has a T with a curve under it right there. And there's even a little pop-up that comes up that says create warped text. Boom. And right here it says style none. Boom. And then there's all these different warp styles, right? Like arc. Now, when you pick a style, and you can play around with any style you want. It's up to you. All right, there's wave, and here's flag, and here is fish, and twist. I don't like that one a whole lot, but whatever. I'll do arch. Now, when you pick one, you also will usually have some sliders here that affect how it, and so if I don't want it to bend quite as much, I can adjust the bend. I can make the bend go the other way. In Photoshop, my goodness, if you haven't learned it yet, you have to be willing to play around and experiment. If you're just going to sit there and click OK all the time, you're not going to have a whole lot of fun. All right, so you got to get in here and just kind of play around. All right, so I'm going to just bend that a little bit. I'm going to click OK now, and that text has been warped. That's what's called warp text because I bent it. Right, I'm just using my move tool now to rearrange these a little bit, just kind of move them around, get them arranged on the document. And guess what? The assignment's done. That's it. All done. I would go File. I would go Save As. Save it in the location like on, some of you have probably figured out how to connect to your Google Drive. That's a good place to save it. But save it in your Documents folder or whatever. Maybe call it Type Layers, and then turn it in when you're done. All right, I'm going to cancel that, and that is it. Adios.